Part 2 is setting up Traefik and Portainer. What we have here is an empty machine. How do you connect it? You connect it using SSH, because in security you added this SSH. I will first add the SSH config and then we can start. Let's open our terminal and type the SSH command, SSH root at youtube1.usbash.com. This will ask you to add the fingerprint, type yes, and then type the passphrase for your SSH key if it is available. Otherwise, you don't have to worry about it. And now we have our machine available for us. It displays some basic stats. Here, there is no system load. Only 2.5% of the 80 gigs is used. So 6% of the memory is used. And this is the Docker IP. And this is the Ethernet IP. So, and you can do htop, and then you can see there is 3 CPUs, and the memory is just 177 MB used. Let's close this, and you can make this terminal pretty. I would go to my blog post, and then you can come to the tag cloud here, and then choose terminal, and here you can set up the shell with OMIPOSH so that it remembers your, how do I say, it remembers your typing, and it makes typing easier. So I will quickly go and do this. Okay, so our terminal is ready and it looks pretty. Now just move back into the other steps. So the first step is installing Traefik. What is Traefik? Traefik is our reverse proxy and a load balancer. So let's say you deploy a microservice, or you deploy a container, and the container runs on a certain port. The Traefik will redirect the request from the port 80 to the container port. It's a really super simple reverse proxy. You can find out more about it in the documentation of Traefik. It's as I think this is the simplest example here. So you can say that a domain called api.domain.com, it will be handled by Traefik, and then it will send that to particular container. It supports Docker, it supports Mesos, it also supports Kubernetes. So it doesn't matter whether you are using Docker Swarm or Kubernetes, it doesn't matter. It can handle both. It also takes the metrics, tracing, and logs, and it also supports SSL certificates using Let's Encrypt, and you can automatically discover services. You don't have to again have a service discovery. It automatically does it for you. So, and the next thing is Portainer. Portainer is container management system. It just runs a daemon in your Docker container, and you will be able to easily manage the Docker containers from a UI. So the first thing is to initiate a Docker swarm. So if you come here and then type ifconfig, you will get a display of all the IPs which is available with you. So you have a IP which is 172.17.0, 97.27. This is our public IP, and then this is the loopback IP. What we can do is we can actually create a network called network 1 and then attach resources to it. So I will attach our server, and we have an IP of 10.0.2. Now we have a local network, and that network has this machine. So if you go back and then do a IP config now, you will have a loopback or public IP and the local Ethernet. I want to initiate the Docker Swarm on this local network IP so that we can communicate in between the machines. If you go and add a new machine, easier to do that. and also we are not exposing the traffic outside. Okay, so the IP is 10.0.0.2. Let's go back to the swarm init command. This is how you init the swarm. I have an IP which is 3, but our IP is 2. Just change that command and run the docker init, the docker swarm init. We'll go back and then run docker swarm init, change the IP to 2, and that's it. Our swarm is initialized. If you want to have multiple machines connected together, go and then run this command, and then it just automatically joins this machine, because you're targeting port 2337, and this port is internally open. It's just blocked from the internet, but in the local network, it's accessible. Yeah, all you have to do is copy this command and then create a new machine and then just paste this command. That's it. You have 2 machine cluster now. As simple as that. And I'm going to create a new overlay network for traffic so that we don't have to mention the traffic networks again and again. So this is the HTTP password. We would need that to add passwords. So I would recommend you just create a HTTP password for protecting the traffic. Yeah, you can come here, run this, and you can add a password which can be super secure. Yeah, it's not secure, but just create a secure password and then run a httpd command. It just creates this crazy text for you. Just copy that text and then keep it in your notepad, and whenever you see a $sign, you will see a bunch of them. Add one more $sign to escape that. That's it. So you have a httpd password created. This will come in handy when we have to apply it in the config. So next is creating folders. So we need to create a folder for traffic, and then we need to create a folder for Portainer. First, let's go and create a data folder, and then in the data folder we create a folder for traffic, and then we need a acme.json. This is the file where all our Let's Encrypt certificates are stored. So this is important, and then we have to make sure that the permissions are right. So let's do that. First, clear the terminal, and I will copy the command make the error. So I'm creating a mount, and then in the mount directory, I'm creating a traffic directory, and I'm also creating the ACME file, and perfect. Now we create a Portainer folder. We have a Portainer folder now. Now is the time to create a Docker Compose. I would recommend you create a Compose folder as well to store all the Docker Compose you will create. Okay, so we have a Compose folder. Let's create traffic.yml file and use a nano editor. Vim is also fine, but nano is simpler, so don't feel bad if you can't use Vim. So we have Docker Compose file here, which has too many things. Let's go one by one. So this is the image which we are going to use. This is the traffic image, and I'm setting the log level to info because this is a dev server and I want things as simple as possible. We are having 2 ports of entry points, so only the ports we opened, port 80 and 443. We are telling the provider as Docker, and the swarm mode is enabled as true, and the network is mentioned as traffic network. We created the network already, so don't bother about it. And we also mentioned the API dashboard to true, the certificate resolver, and this is the important stuff. So here you have to update your email address. So come here and then add your email address. And don't bother about it. We already set the permissions correctly. And here, this is the volume. This is the file we just created. So make sure the file is in the correct place. This is your local file, and this is the file inside the container. And that's mentioned here. So we are just mapping the container file with the local file. And once that is done, this is where the Docker does the match. Sorry, not the Docker, Traefik does the match. So to locate particular container and then add traffic to it, you just have to add labels. In the deploy section, there are labels. You can add labels and you can control all the traffic functionality in labels. You have traffic enabled and you have the URL here. So this is the URL for traffic, but the example.com is your domain name. But what we have is a different domain name. So I would go and then say youtube.entasubash.com. So you first always verify, copy that, and then go to dig and then say, if you go there and then make sure it's still, if traffic.youtube.entasubash.com goes to youtube1.entasubash.com, and then it goes to our IP address. This is important. Always make sure the URLs actually comes to your machine. If you configure it once with star, it always does, but if there is any configuration problems with the DNS, this is the tool which helps you a lot. You have to figure out what problem you have, and otherwise it's going to be hard to fix it. The next is we are telling the router to use api.internal. This is what we mentioned at the top, the main as Docker, and this is the load balancer port of Traefik. So the dashboard is actually available at 8080. In the internal port, we just mentioned the port as 8080 so that it maps to the domain here. And then we are mentioning the cert resolver as LE resolver. LE means let's encrypt. And we are saying the entry point as WebSecure, that means HTTPS. And then there is a middleware called auth traffic. This auth traffic is this middleware. So if you want to create a middleware, after the middleware, put a name and make sure that middleware is used. And this is where we use the password. We created an admin. We created a password here, right? So this is where we are going to use it. Copy it and paste it. And yeah, so this is the catch-all route for global HTTP to HTTPS redirects, because we can use HTTPS only. Again, so this is how you create middlewares in Traefik. You mention the middleware name and then add it to the middleware. That's it. And this is the, okay, I forgot to mention one important thing. This service name is very, very important, because the service name is where we are tagging the services here. So you see here, router.traffic. So everything here, this is the service name. And as a sample, I have a simple Who Am I application here. So this just displays the port. You can actually ask this, based on this command, you can make it run on any port you want. I'm mentioning the network as public, traffic public. And this is again goes into the same process. Okay, traffic is enabled. And if you see, the name is my app. So everything is mentioned as my app, and my app. And you can come and then see the host here. I will go and change the host to youtube.entasubash.com. And yeah, it also has a auth. You know what? I will remove the auth here. Because this is very simple service. I don't want to add auth to it. so that it creates. Most of the time, you might want to create apps with auth, but okay, I made a mistake here. Okay, I removed the middleware auth, and then I will take it out for. So this for my app will not have any auth specified. So it's a very simple service now. It only has the rule for the host, and the load balancer says look for the port 8082 because that's what we are mentioning here. And the entry point is WebSecure. That means it's a HTTPS endpoint. And then my app.tls is true. And then the TLS is actually less resolver. That means it's using Let's Encrypt. If you don't know what Let's Encrypt is, Google. It's a free SSL certificate provider. It renews every 3 months, but Traefik has the management inside, so you don't have to actually worry about it. Once you set up the Traefik properly, the renewal of SSL certificate is taken care of. It's just once you set up everything properly, you don't have to worry about it forever. Okay, I think we have our Traefik configs ready. Let's try it out, shall we? I would cat Traefik and then check one more time the services. Okay, just make sure everything is actually available, and do a Docker stack deployment. Docker stack deploy -c Traefik. So what it does is it will deploy in the swarm, and it decides which machine to deploy based on the availability. Right now, we have only one machine, so it's gonna be in this machine. Okay, interesting. We have our app running. So how do you test it? You go and then check if the Who Am I application is running. Yes, our Who Am I application is running. So you can see it's coming from the host whoami.youtube.com. But if you go and then say Traefik, it will ask for a username and password. And I can type admin super secure, and you will see a dashboard. In the dashboard, you can click HTTP, and then you can see that there are two hosts for us. One is Traefik, and the another one is Who Am I? And you can see that, okay, the service, the entry point is SSL, and then the router is my app Docker, and then the service is my app. That's it. So, and then the REST resolver is certificate resolver is REST resolver. You can come here and then check the certificates if you want. It actually is a properly issued SSL certificate. You don't have to pay for SSL certificate for your development environments anymore. You can just use Traefik. The next section for blog post is Portainer. Let's go and create a file for Portainer. Okay, we have our Portainer file ready, and then copy and paste in Nano. So what do we have here? So this is the Portainer agent. Just don't do anything. There's nothing happening here except we mentioned the network as Traefik public. And here is where we are mentioning the Portainer configs. So this is the folder we created for Portainer. Make sure this folder is available. So what did we do? I think we created the folder somewhere else, so we just have to replace it. And again, we created the deploy labels here. Here we have to come and change the URLs. I will add admin.youtube.antosubash.com, and I will mention the port as 9000, web secure, true, and less resolver. And if you come back, you would know where you created the folder for Portainer. Here, this is the Portainer folder, and then go back. Yeah, so we made sure that the data is available, and then the host is changed. That's it. We have our Portainer ready, and then let's deploy the Portainer. Docker stack deploy -c Portainer. Okay, Now, if you go to admin.youtube. You will see the Portainer initial administration page. So you can create an initial master password and create an account, and that's it. We have our Portainer. So if you come and see, we have two stacks which we just deployed. One is Traefik and one is Portainer. And we can come and add stack here. You can create the compose files here. You can also upload it from your computer. You can have a Git repository and then use it. So there are a lot of ways where you can add stacks. And there is also app templates here and then services. But I like to keep my stacks private. In the sense, I create my own stacks. That is what we are going to do in part 3. So this is it for part 2. In part 3, we will go and then create the registry and then create a Postgres database, Redis, and all the other things, and then see how we can use them.